Hi, I'm Dr. Jim Hoven, your host of the Difference Makers podcast. This is a place where people come together that are making a difference for those who want to make a difference. And that's you. We're bringing thought leaders together in a sense of fusion where ideas and concepts and personalities are all driven together into one place at one time. And this is no different. In this episode, you're going to see cool things from cool people making a difference. Hey, difference makers, guess what? If you are listening to this, you can't see who I'm sitting next to, but if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see to my right, the one and only Dr. Joe Ramos is here, and he and I hardly ever get to do this because of our schedules. Today's the day. We've carved this time out, and with him being with me, we wanted to talk about something that comes to us all the time through our business that we think we can help you with and share in your life, whether it's in a business, in a functional organizational capacity, even in your family, and that's about leadership. So I can't wait to get into this with my good brother and friend, Dr. Joe Ramos. Welcome, Dr. Ramos.
Thanks for having me. So excited to be on the Difference Makers podcast.
Yeah.
And hopefully we can make a difference today.
You know, we try to do that every day in what we do right here at the firm. And that's how, I mean, as you and I were talking about this now over 200 episodes ago, It was the title that made the most sense, right? Because of our tagline, what makes us different makes us better. This kind of bled into that. And one of the differences that I've seen that you have helped really lead us through, not to just use the word over and over again, but to grow our company from when I got here at like 30 employees or whatever it was to now going on 200 in 7 years is leadership. Yeah. So I think it's a critical topic. And I'd like for you to just share, first of all, kind of your overall vision on leadership or definition. What does that look like to you?
You know, I've tried to define leadership. You know this, been talking with you guys and how I want our company to be led, and it's tough. And so to me, leadership is more of a concept. It's a concept that involves a bunch of core parts. I don't know that there's where I would say, you know, where I'd have a tagline for leadership, so to say, like what it means. Leadership involves your culture. It involves the ethics of the people that you put into place, their integrity. Leadership involves a common vision, getting people looking the same direction and seeing a bigger picture. So leadership is this alphabet soup to me of things. And I think that's why sometimes as a leader, you always risk also people not knowing. You can, as a leader, you know, for example, one of the worst things you can do as a leader is not have a clear vision that you want your leaders to follow, or that you're leading with an organization. You don't have a clear vision, you just can't get anywhere or get anything done, or at least not very successfully. And how do you get clear vision in alphabet soup? Right. It's all of those things I just said. And so sometimes when you shift from one thing to another, the people that you're trying to lead will start to believe you don't have a clear vision. So it's challenging. I can't say that I can answer that in a sentence or with a tagline.
You know, to pair off that, it totally fits that your answer would be that, because when you started this thing, I remember, right, when I was doing chiropractic practice, you were doing medical practice, you go to law school, you come back, you open this business, you just wanted to be a boutique firm, right? Just doing right things. Yeah. And so your leadership at that time continues to be the same thing that it was then of take good care of people. If you've said it once, I've heard you say it a million times. Yeah. Take good care of people, have good values, make sure that you're doing what's right by your team and working your way out. And that's how we ended up with our 5 core values, was from that concept. Yes. So super consistent. I would like to know from you, as from that time when it was you, Megan, Joanne, Maria, pretty soon Brian came on board. From that point to now, how has the leadership concept for you evolved from you leading a team of 5 to now you leading a team of leaders, leading a team of leaders? Like, how has that journey been?
Well, oh man, boy, I'll try not to talk for the next 30 minutes on this one. That's been the joy, actually, and it's been a lot of fun. And you're right, it did start with this idea that we would be a boutique firm. I want to just be boutique and take great care of people. The problem is there was an inherent conflict right there. Because if you take great care of people, you're not going to be a boutique firm.
Yes.
They're just going to keep coming.
They're going to get busy.
And if you love people, and how do you tell people no if you love people? Well, then the word boutique goes out the window. And as you know, yesterday we have a company birthday lunch here at our firm, every month we do it and we celebrate all the people having a birthday that month. And at that, we celebrate some of the compliments that people have emailed into us. They mean a lot to us. The reviews mean a ton. The private letters mean a ton. The cards mean a lot. They don't just get thrown in a garbage can, but we hang on to those things. We have walls where we pin them up on. And anyway, at this thing I was sharing with everyone where I wanted to make sure we were going as a company, and you heard that. It was making sure that there wasn't a focus on money. Companies, as they get bigger, they seem to focus on money. And not one time throughout our journey together, when we were doctors in the same office, when we did have that little small staff, not one time did we ever focus on money. We realized it was an important part to keeping a business rolling, but we realized that it was those core values. And the thing you did, something you did that was absolutely incredible for this business, was when we got together, you knew who I was as a person. I love people, I care about people, and you immediately stopped and said, well, we're going to get those core values down and we're going to post them all over this place. So you can't walk through Ramos Law without seeing our core values on walls, our core values at the coffee machine, our core values in front of workstations. And what you were doing by doing that was solidifying the thing that would help us with the scaling up. That, because we've fallen back to that several times. And we know this, people watching don't know this, but we're scaling a business to the degree that we've been able to do this. And I say we, meaning myself and Dr. Hoven, Daniel Filbert, Carol Carney, Randy Manning, Brian Calandra, I could talk on and on and on and on and on about different people who have been here and helped with the scaling up of this business. And it is a we effort in doing that. But in the we effort, we faced a lot of challenges, remember?
Oh, absolutely.
Remember how many times we've had things where we come up and we're like, well, I don't quite see it that way. I don't quite see it that way. And what do we fall back to? Our core values.
Right. It's so funny. I was doing a team engagement meeting with one of our locations just this week. And one of the things that I made sure to bring up as we were having some really good discussions, and we're going to talk about when two people, especially at a leadership position, see something from a different perspective, right? How you go through and navigate that. But one person was in the meeting was talking about teams, what teams are, how they're defined, work product, and all of these kinds of things. And the point that we had to make very clear and very quickly was, you know what? All that's true, but it's all governed and run through the perspective and the prism of our core values.
Right.
Because if you look why so many people have come to our business from other law firms, why lawyers and paralegals and legal assistants, why they ask to come here, is because they hear and see and know someone here, and they say it's different than any place I've ever been.
Right.
And that's where I think leadership and culture come together. If the leadership isn't responsible and sentinels to the culture, to keeping it what the original foundation is, then it has that risk of deteriorating into something that's just average.
Right. Yeah, no, you're so right. And I think that as you grow and as your leadership grows and as your culture improves, one of the key things, and I think it's why we decided to make it our last core value, was have fun.
Yes.
Because you can get so goal focused, or you can get so leadership focused on an organization going somewhere, that you can forget to have fun. And that's just, it's just important to remember to live. I was on topic but off topic, but with leadership, this morning I was talking with my mom, and she was talking to me about how she's thinking about listing her business for sale and what she would do and how she would plan her money out, and how this would work out for her. And we talked a little bit about what she had coming in. And Mom, I'm sorry if you're listening that I'm sharing this, but ultimately I said to her at the end of it, she thought it out very well. And you could tell it was heavy on her heart a little bit. That's a big question.
It's a big deal.
Am I going to have enough money to get to the finish line? And what I said to her, I went back to our core value, our final core value here at the firm. I said, hey, Mom, listen, you got to have fun. Don't die with a bunch of money. Don't die with a bunch of money. Have fun. Pick an age, divide that out, book it out, and spend every penny of it.
There you go.
And we both got a chuckle out of that, and we laugh. But it relates back to what we do here, right? We have fun. We're goal directed. We figure things out realistically. We work with our team on things that are successful. But man, we have a lot of fun doing it.
We do. Mm-hmm. And I think part of that fun is being surrounded by like-minded people. I was just listening to a podcast this morning, interestingly enough, and they were talking about when you're hiring in a business, especially at a smaller business, or when you're starting a new division or a new product or new service, should you hire based on what the skills needed are? Should you hire based on the personality. We use the working genius here, right?
Yes,
so should you
yes.
look at what geniuses are required for that effort, or should you hire for cultural values? And Patrick Lencioni, who's the head of this podcast, says always hire on values first, and then on what skill sets and personalities are required to do a job. And I think that's great. And you've done, from everything I can tell, a great job of picking key people around you to help you grow. Because you have this vision that to scale, it has to go beyond you, because you only have so much time, especially with all the things you've got going on.
Right.
What is it that you look for in someone who you want to lead a department or other people? Is there something that you have in mind that you look for?
Absolutely. And you and I have talked about this in the past. And I don't know if we've shared this with any of the viewers or listeners, but we have a scale of culture and competence. And if you remember anything from this today, remember that. And when you go to that scale, if you go to any scale and you had to place something on it, you have to pick a side first. And we pick culture first, always. There are, Ray Kroc said a long time ago, Ray Kroc, who came up with the McDonald's Corporation, which became very successful, and how he, whether you like his food or not, he came up with scaling in a big way before many did. And he said that he doesn't look for great people. He looks for good people, and he puts them in a great system, and he makes them great. Now, we've modified that somewhat. We have great people. But what we do, and using what you talked about with the working genius, is we find great people, which is a little bit different than Ray Kroc, but we put them in a great system, which is the same as Ray Kroc, and we put them in that great system based on cultural competence and just culture itself, basically, and personalities and how people work. We have seen every time that we've tried to put the wrong personality, who may be incredible at their job or incredibly talented, we've seen massive failure. And going back to my doctor roots, the only analogy I can use to explain that is cancer. It takes a single cell, and it spreads and it doubles and it goes somewhere else and it doubles, and pretty quick you have something deadly. And that's exactly how organizations work. You let a single bad cell out, and it will double and it will double until it kills you. It is a cancer. And so there's only one way we keep cancer out here at Ramos Law, and that's what we start with culture first. We start with culture. We start with great people, not great degrees. I don't care where you graduated from. I don't care what your GPA was. We start with great people with great values, and then we put them in a great system, and then we build great things. And that's why Ramos Law is scaling at a magnitude that is, it's undescribable, frankly. I have another good friend who advertises on television. I've talked to you a lot about him. He's a really good guy. He's another attorney, practices good law. I'm not going to say his name because I'm not going to advertise for him today. He's a great guy, but he was basically, man, how in the world are you doing that over there, right? We got a call from an Idaho firm that asked us to go up and work with them because they wanted to scale. How are you doing that over there? We get this question all the time. How are we scaling so fast? We're really growing fast. But you want to know what's remarkable is we haven't lost quality. We haven't lost internally or externally, right? And I would actually bounce that question back to you. What have you seen? You're one of my core guys, right? It's you and me every day, along with just a couple other people. They're really kind of trying to direct this growing machine, monster, huge, like iceberg, right? What have you seen? What do you think that's allowed it to happen so quickly but maintain a high level of quality?
A couple things would pop right into my mind. Number one is you and I are part of that group of people that always wants to learn. Like as much as education as you have as a medical doctor, attorney, a pilot, all these things that you do, you're constantly wanting to learn. I feel the same way. Podcasts every day, and I'm a junkie, right? Always reading something.
Yes.
And we try to surround ourselves with people around that. So when people want to get better and want to learn, I think that's one thing, because we're open-minded. Having open-minded is good. The other thing that I really think has separated us and made things easier for us as a business is because of our USP, our unique service proposition is you are a medical doctor and an attorney. And when people see that for the service we offer, they've been injured, they've been hurt, that's a sound that cuts through all the noise in comparative, right? And so we are blessed with an almost unfair advantage. Yeah. But now it's, what do you do with it? Because there are other doctor attorneys that have not done near what we have been able to do because of staying core to the true values, identifying, staying core to them, and then being religiously protective of them. I think you first surrounded yourself with people who believe in you, believe in the message, believe in the vision, and then have skills to help take that out. And then on top of that, they see where you're wanting to go. And sometimes even maybe in areas where you haven't seen yet. Like when you look at Randy Manning and some of the things that he looks at and ways that we can innovate, and Daniel and just the way that he can make decisions, all of that drives our growth. Yes. But I think then on top of that, the biggest thing that has allowed us to stay true to not only being saying who we are, but fulfilling the promise is being absolutely committed that we are not changing who we are as a business, regardless of who we bring in. People conform to our way of doing things or they don't make it.
Right.
Right. And we've seen that from time to time. I'd love for you to talk about your thoughts on when someone comes in and they give their best foot forward in an interview, and we think they line up with our core values and everything seems good and they're great at what they do. But then we see that they're, if something happens in their life, or they didn't quite understand what we truly meant, or whatever. How do you basically spread down through you or through us to say, here's your opportunity to get right, or we're not going to make this work? What's your thought there?
Well, first I want to reiterate a couple of things Dr. Hoven said there, because as you listen to this podcast, I want to make sure that you get something that you grow and you improve in and helps you today. And there was something tucked in those words that was just perfect. But one of the, to just summarize quickly here, critical points, culture and values, first and foremost, because you can always fall back on them. And our core values, we fall back on. That was critical to what he said. Open-mindedness, critical. You can't even work with other leaders, and leaders can't work with other leaders, and leaders can't work with other teammates if they're not open-minded, period. That's such a pearl you gave there. But a third one, as you were saying that, and it really struck me, was we have I think you used the word unwavering. We have an unwavering commitment to who we are. I have an unwavering faith in Jesus Christ, in my religion. That's unwavering. That. That's, though, how we approach our business. We're unwavering. You can't shake me off my faith, period. It's unshakable. I might stray from it every now and then. I might not act like it every now and then. I might fall short every now and then, but you can't shake me off of it. And we've an analogy type way or a similar type way, we're that way in our business with our core values. We're the same way with our open-mindedness. And so what happens is that third critical thing that Dr. Hoven said there was we are unwavering in how we approach things with people. We don't feel like firing people is a bad thing or needs to be bad. There's nothing that makes me happier than when somebody leaves our firm and they still text me and their friends and they share their babies with me or their new career with me or where they're at or a vacation they went on. That is awesome. And I think people think too often that the end of an employment relationship is like the end of a friendship, or it's a breakup, because I think we're all used to like high school or something. It's not that at all. And what we've been able to master as a team here is to say, you are a great person and there is a great place for you, and we want you to plant and grow, but not here. Why? Because we're unwavering. We're unwavering in what we're planting in our field. If you want to call it that, there are certain things that are going to be planted here, and there are certain things that are going to grow here, and we're unwavering from it. And the only thing it's so powerful here that I related it to my faith.
Yes, that's so big. And, I think that there's a gradient that gets there. So for anybody watching or listening, I live in this place every single day. And when we do have to let someone go, it is painful for us on one side, but on the other side, we try to structure it in such a way that that person understands it's what's best for them.
Right.
Because it's not a great fit. But in the meantime, it doesn't go from 0 to firing. It goes from, hey, we do annual and semi-annual reviews. We do meetings with teams. There's all these opportunities for these people that may not be hitting the mark to be shown what's going on, give them an opportunity to correct it. And if they either A, can't, or B, which doesn't oftentimes happen, won't, most of the time it's a can't thing. Like it's just not in the right seat and there's not a place. And so it makes that transition of moving them to a different company so much easier because everyone knows we've given it a good try. And I love that about our company.
I love that about our company. And I'll tell you again, this is not lip service that we put to this, but here's a good mark of when you're actually doing that. Even this week, we had somebody come back to our company who we got rid of years ago. Years ago. They weren't a good fit. They were not a plant that we were planting in our field. And the reason was not because they weren't a good person, but they had a different idea of how they wanted to grow. And they've been out there and they've been experiencing the legal market for years and years and years. And that person's now come back and they're like, I like that field. I want to grow over there. I want, within that. And how many times we had that happen? Multiple times.
Many times.
And I also think that our best, I think here's another key thing to rapid growth, to scaling. So I would probably, I'm not saying in any particular order here of what we said, but again, to give you some points, I would say point number 4 is that as you go to grow your firm and as you go to identifying roles or fit, don't as a business owner or as a leader always think that what you have in mind is the best fit. This is where you've helped me out a whole lot. We've had a lot of people that join our firm and they're really good people. They fit all the first stuff. And maybe they don't have a particular competence for a particular area, but you recognize a specialness in them in another area. And I would say that we're very flexible in finding the best fit within our organization whenever possible.
Because they're great people.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden we'll say, oh, you want to know what? Maybe they're not a great paralegal, but they're a great this. Maybe they're not a great legal assistant, but they're a great that. Or maybe they're not a great receptionist, but they're a great... And then we move them over and inevitably, man, those people just freaking kill it.
Yes.
So that tip being to make that clear, as a business owner, if you want to scale your business, when you go to hire someone, don't feel like you have to lock them into the position you hired them for.
I love that.
They might grow your business from a whole other angle you never even thought of.
I love that so much.
So I think as a team, we're pretty good at that.
I'd say we are.
Yeah.
And another thing we're good at that I want to bring out is when two people look at something differently, whether it's a concept or whether it's an idea, how we go about breaking that down, deciding what we're going to do, and then going through that. You and I are going, we literally just lived this on something that I had watched, that you had watched. We looked at Focus. I'll let you talk to it, but we looked at Focus, and then, I'm like, I remember sending it to you guys, say, I know we saw this, or send it to 4 of us, and said, this is something I really struggle with myself. And so, on this Focus thing, on wanting to say yes to everything. And then you're like, hey, Jim, I got a little different idea. Can you speak to how we like to do things here when we look at things, the same thing from different perspectives?
Yes. And I want to veer off temporarily off that question because I'm going to answer that question with something I'm going to go to. It's one of the reasons here that we focus on personality and personality testing as part of our hiring and building our teams. As you've mentioned, our working genius model that we use. It's very important because if you really believe that and you really buy into that as you want to scale your business, you need to be willing to bounce what you're thinking off of other people. You need to be willing to listen and hear, and then you need to be willing to decide what the solution is. So how we do it here a lot, we are very equal. There's not like me, the boss, telling everybody else what we want to do. We would scale nowhere. This place would die. What happens is that I understand my personality and I understand my strengths, and I like to read and study and expand and grow and all those things. And with the minute something captures my mind, I shoot it out to you guys. And then I get all this feedback. Now, why do I do that? Even if in my mind as owner, I'm going, we're going this way. I always shoot it out, and I always hear the feedback because we each have unique personalities. We each have unique geniuses, if you want to go by the working genius model. We each have unique emotions. We each have unique perspectives. And every time that happens, my eyes are opened. So I'll touch on this. So I think we probably have time to get this finished here before we wrap up the podcast today. So Dr. Hoven had sent out something that was my biggest weakness, but I disagreed with him on what his thinking was. So there was a thing that came out on Focus. And I'll summarize it quickly. It was basically a piece for leaders that said the biggest aspect of failure is if you lose focus, and you need to pick some things, you need to do those things, you need to do them well. And on its surface, that sounds really good. And I think that excited you, did it?
It did.
Yeah, it did. Like, pick some things, stay focused, do those well.
Because my nature is so broad and just I want to touch so many things, right? That's my nature. So I'm like, oh, that's kind of a weakness to me. So maybe I can learn something here.
Right. And I knew the other leaders were going to jump on this and be like, yeah, you're right. And here, the funny thing about this is that may be my very biggest weakness. I have so many things in the air at one time. So many things. I don't even want to go into them. So many things on my mind at one time that sometimes there is no focus. And when there is no focus, there is no direction, and there's no productivity, and nothing gets refined perfectly. That's the part that fits with why you were sending it out. However, here's one of the things I think is the biggest weakness in leadership: overfocus. Now, let me explain that. People who overfocus, in my opinion, are the people who say, this is how we do it. Mm-hmm. Here, we're successful here at Ramos because this is how we do it. Well, no, that's overfocus. That's thinking that's the old saying, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. That's that to me. That's the people who don't want to change because they know it all. And they're so focused for example, if you're a person who was running television ads and advertising as an attorney for years and years, they're so focused on, they're still beating that drum, man, mm-hmm. mailing another check for television ads. Well, the truth is that their overfocus is killing them, right? Look where we're at.
Right.
Look what we do. Well, how did we get there? Because we didn't overfocus. At one day, somebody came out and said, hey, what do you think about billboards? At one day, somebody said, hey, what do you think about radio? One day said, what do you think about social media? Who would have ever thought, where did the idea come from? We'd have Anita sitting here in the room, right? Our social media guru who's behind us, supporting us in things, or Gabe here filming this thing, And
videographer at a law firm, what?
Yeah, well, where did that come from? Somewhere somebody lost focus, or they expanded their focus, or they thought outside the box. So hyper-focus to me is like, it reminds me when they say, it's like when you put blinders on a horse so they see nothing around them. When you put blinders on it so you don't hear or see anything around them. That type of focus I think is killer. I think not killer good, killer to a business, killer bad.
Yeah.
And so I love focus in the right context. Otherwise, focus takes us out of our growth mode. We're investigating a prospect now of taking on a major contract, this part for the state of Colorado, on a major legal area.
Yes. Major
legal field. We didn't get that because we were hyper-focused. And we're not scaling and growing like we are because we're hyper-focused. So I'd be interested to hear what you think on that, because it's a twist on focus. I'm agreeing with you that focus is important, mm-hmm. but I'm also saying focus can be a killer.
Yes.
What do you think?
I love that. I would have never taken it from that perspective. And that's why leaders getting together to bounce ideas off each other is critical. Instead of siloing the leaders to just take care of your business and your place, coming together to create that vision and that perspective is everything. So my focus is now expanded based on what you just shared with me. And I think that it's an if and thing, not an if but thing. Yes. I think you can be an and thing. So if you want to grow, you can look at this and that. And then you have to make good decisions on if it's great to bring in this other line of business, if it's great to bring in this other person, this other division. And that's a big way we've scaled, right? Is through other divisions that we've brought in because it met with our core values of the dent we're trying to make in the universe. Yeah. And so all that being said, I love that. And then once you find that, that's when you do your lockdown, pit bull jaws, and then you go get it.
Right.
And you don't deter your focus from that, but you always keep your mind open. I love that.
Well, and that's the learning I took out of you sharing that with us, was I immediately looked at all my projects and said, where am I an inch deep that I need to be a foot deep? Where am I an inch deep and a foot wide where I need to be a foot deep and an inch wide? That's focus, right?
Yes.
And I had some convictions because I see a lot of things that I have on my plate right now I probably need to focus on and get those a foot deep. And that's where I really agreed with you. So I agree. It's not a this or that. it's a kind of this and that.
So good.
But remembering that you can, remembering that that's important. It's really important to scaling. So I don't know. We're about our 30-minute mark.
I know.
What are some points here for somebody that I think we've rambled on? Hopefully it was useful, helpful. But I really I know when I listen to podcasts or anything like that, I really like to know, hey, what was I supposed to get out of that, right? So you're better summarizing than I am. What are we supposed to get out of this?
So here's what I would think is from everything we've talked about, there's probably a set of tools, right? Leadership tools that we could boil this down to. Number one, we have the tool of meetings. We use meetings effectively. We meet together. So having good meetings with good agendas, good outcomes, good action steps, that's number one. I think another tool is something like the Working Genius. And we'll include a show note to that so you guys can kind of link to it if you want to learn more about Patrick Lencioni's Working Genius, and you can take it and all that kind of thing. But having tools that assess who you have on your organization, I think that's another big one. I think we've talked and we alluded to this is training. Leaders need to train people. And what we have is we're just actually really excited about the wingman concept, right? This was your idea for 2024. It was something that you said very important to you. So we've developed it. So now our wingman training concept, that's a big one. And I think the next tool that people can really use is open communication. Like understanding communication. I think those 4 things, if you put those 4 things, of course, along with a good plan and then your metrics. So now we're up to 6 things. A good plan and monitor those metrics. So from a leadership perspective, if you put that together and then you spread that message according to your core values, which now is number 7, man, I don't know how you don't win in your organization, in your family, in your business.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think if you took any notes during that, I think that's a really nice summary. We always want to be open-minded. We always want to listen. We always want to communicate. We always want to hear what others say. We want to understand each other's strengths and differences because it'll open your eyes to your own. And there you will be able to scale a business. And certainly at Ramos Law, we're not done scaling yet. I feel like I feel like we're just starting, honestly. Like, watch out, type of thing, right?
I'm so excited. Every day I come to work. I can't wait to, my drive in here is just pumping me up to get here and be with my people. And and by the way, thank you so much for what you've created, the opportunity, the blessing that this is, not only to me and to my family, but to the people I work with and our clients. Like, your vision has made a difference. You always said you wanted to leave a wake behind you, and then we've turned it into a wave because the wake is now it's bigger than a wake. Now it's a wave, and I can't thank you enough for your inspiration, your vision, and your leadership.
Well, thank you for that. First of all, those words mean a lot to me, and they mean a lot to me when people send in messages, and I read every one of those. They mean a lot to me. It's why I respond to a lot of our Google reviews myself. It means so much to me. So those words mean a lot to me, and thank you for being by my side along the way, because I don't feel like I was ahead of you or behind you. I think you've been one of my partners by my side that's really made us what we are today. And I'm excited to see what we're going to be tomorrow and in the future. And that's I can't tell you, I get the same excitement myself. So
good.
Thanks, bud.
This was great.
Awesome.
And I hope you guys watching and listening enjoyed this and got something from it. Of course, if you have questions, you can email me, jim@ramoslaw.com, and Dr. Ramos and I will follow up. We'll get you answers to your questions. We'll take care of that. If you have any other things you'd like us to talk about together or people from our team, just let us know. And while I'm asking for things, I'm also going to ask you to please leave us a 5-star review if you would. It makes such a difference because it gets more people interested in what we're doing and hopefully helps them make a difference, or at least us make a difference in their lives. Subscribe, do all the things that social media people love for you to do. Like, share, do that kind of thing. And remember, there's links in the show notes for you so that you can have all the resources you need. And until next time, take what we've talked about, apply it in your life, and keep making a difference.